Welcome back, everyone. Episode 24, Path to 100K and why it's such a powerful number. So this episode going to really dive into, what it really takes to get to 100K. It's not easy, kind of the time frame, the average time frame, which we'll definitely, go over in the video here today. But Charlie Munger once said, find a way to get your hands on 100K. And I know 100K sounds a lot, but you got to think about it. If you put in contributions regularly, and then if you match your 401k, if you have an IRA to invest in, over time it's going to build on its own. You just got to stay consistent and disciplined. They always say 100K is the hardest to hit in investing because of how much of your own money does go into it. But over time, when compounding interest really starts to take off, then that's when you see the power of 100K and why it's so important. So I'm really excited to bring this video. As you guys know, we're going to start with the intro. Of course, we're going to kick it off the war in the Middle East. We're continuing seeing oil prices fluctuate up and down, up and down. It did skyrocket after Israel hits a gas plant the gas fields over in Iran. So a lot's going on right now in the Middle East. I think honestly, if we continue the war, we'll see gas prices hit about $4.50 to $5 on the national average. With the Strait of Hormuz closed, it's basically closed, and the bombing of the gas fields. This is not only going to have economic impact short term, but man, we really have a long term impact on this as well. So one thing I'm seeing from Iran is like they know they don't have the strongest military compared to United States, and they know that they're really going against the US and Israel at this point. But one thing they do know is they have control of the waterways. And I've been watching Earn Your Leisure in the past year, 2 years. One thing they talked about is how countries are so invested in trying to control waterways. And this is a perfect example why. Because now Iran's like, hey, we control the Strait of Hormuz right now, which allows 20% of the global oil chain to pass through. So it's like, we have a big card as well. So we may not be able to hurt you military wise, but we can hurt you economically, which it can be just as bad, right? So it's an interesting game. They said that, Trump had talks with Iran. Reports are coming out saying that's not true. Iran itself said that's not true. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not against more economic than political. Just know that, what a lot of people are saying is the reason why, Trump announced that was a bit market manipulation. Midterms are going to be coming up later this year. So, you can't really have, your gas prices and everything skyrocketing, inflation going through the roof when you're trying to win a midterm. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait for it to play out. It wouldn't be the first time that he lied. So I don't know. I don't really know. But I do know that if we continue doing this on top of the US, the way we're looking economically, the data is not looking so good. And, this is where a recession can come into place. I mentioned it in my last video that I do believe that we are due for a recession. So when I was, looking into it, inflation is going to increase. I mean, they're projecting inflation to hit 3.5% by May if this continues. Jobs are down. So you're seeing credit card balances at all-time high. Groceries are even more expensive. Gas prices are through the roof. Unemployment, did increase. The impact on tariffs. So we got a lot going on within the United States right now on top of what we're dealing with in the Mid East. I heard a lot of people talk about private credit, how that's all-time high, and how that can lead to delinquencies and defaults on those type of loans. So it's really interesting, man. Only thing I can say is, stick to your plan. Try to save and put cash aside as much as you can. The cash is king, and because it's just going to be an important time here in the next few months to see, how the U.S. handles their economic issues. Man, I mean, they're putting out like a bill a day into this war right now. So, we can't really afford any more mishaps on our end. So all this to say that the market is down, but I'm not really adding any additional. I'm not really going crazy right now in the market, even though the market's down. Here's why. Because like I said, my goal this year is to still, pay off, high interest debt. My goal is to save as much as I can. And then when we hit a bear market, that's when I'm going to really try to dive in. So as of this recording, VOO is only down 6.8. I mentioned this because yeah, it's down, but again, it's not really down enough for me to just deploy everything, right? So when Trump announced his tariffs and the market crashed, I was actually, same plan, was just to save and save and save. But then I thought to myself, like, man, these prices right now are COVID level, and we don't know the next time that's going to come for a drop like this. So I deployed a lot of my savings, which I'm not really saying you guys should do, because I did take a risk with that. But I deployed a lot of my savings into the market, and I'm actually glad that I did, because now I'm basically seeing the return on that. So even with the market down right now, I'm still up overall from when I deployed when Trump announced his tariffs. So like I said, with the private credit, with everything I just mentioned earlier, and then with the Mideast, man, we're really in a credit crisis, and our debt keeps going through the roof. So it's only a matter of time until the market collapses. But when it does, I want to be ready so that way I can take advantage of that. Right now, 6.8% is not really there, but once we hit like 15 to 20% dip in the market, then yeah, that's when I'm really going to dive in. And with that being said, buying red and holding will get you to 100K faster than you think. And we're going to get started with the video here now. Disclaimer: the information provided on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered as financial advice. We are not licensed financial professionals, and any opinions shared are based on personal experiences and research. As always, do your own due diligence and consult with a certified financial advisor or professional before making any investment decisions. All right, so we're going to kick the video off with the average time it takes for someone to hit 100K. Now, before we get started with this, first things first, it's never too late to get started investing, whether you feel like you're in your mid-30s, your 40s, or even in your 50s. It's never too late to get started. And here's why. So on average, it takes the average person about 7 to 8 years to hit 100K in a portfolio. So if you feel like that you're early into investing and you feel like you're not making much progress, but you're staying consistent, just know that's very normal. I am in that same boat right now. I feel like I'm currently, staying consistent. I'm not really seeing, the true takeoff, but that's because I am still young enough to where I haven't gotten to the full power of compounding interest, right? So I'm not quite there yet in my portfolio. So that's why my first goal is going to be hitting 100K in my portfolio, because I understand in order to do that, you have to stay consistent. You have to stay disciplined. You heard me in my last video say, like, there's no perfection to it, right? It's just a matter of staying consistent. So what does this mean? If you are, not matching your 401k to the fullest, just know you're leaving money on the table that can cost you thousands of dollars in the future. Like, I promise you, it can cost you thousands of dollars just by not having that match. So you got to find a way to match. You got to find a way to match, and you got to find a way to live off of, the match when it comes out of your check. You got to find a way to do that. If you're a long-term 9-to-5 investor like me, you understand that you have 3 superpowers, right? So that's your saving rate, that's compounding interest, and that's time that you have in the market. And then if you want to throw another one in there, a consistent check. So you know exactly what you're going to get every 2 weeks, or you're roughly going to know what you get every 2 weeks, right? So even if you do work overtime, instead of trying to use overtime to pay the bills, use overtime to then fuel for your future. Even if that's in your individual account, you have more freedom to kind of pull in and out in your individual account, right? So, but all in all, you got to set the foundation early and let compounding interest do its thing. So, you got to just stay consistent in the market, dollar cost average in the best that you can. Don't sell red, buy red. This is a lot of people panic when they see red, but you technically don't take a loss until you sell your position. So don't sell your position. If you're doing what a lot of experts say, what you hear me say, buying ETFs, buying index funds, you will be okay in the long term. Like, this war right now is only a blimp of what's going to happen. Like, it's just a little blur of what's going to happen long term down the road. And if the market does crash, and we do see that recession level, we do see a 20% drop, and you're buying red, you will be set for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years plus because you understood that instead of taking a loss, you bought a discount. And then once it hit green, don't sell, hold long term. Don't like why sell? Why sell that hard work, right? Hold long term. You want to hold 5, 10, 15 plus years, right? So by doing this, you're setting yourself up for a more comfortable future. If you're me in the 20s, imagine if you start holding and you just held for 20 years, and not even including your investment account, not including your 401k account, excuse me. Not including your 401k, just imagine if you just held for 20 years and you stayed consistent this entire time. You bought the dips when the dips came. You took advantage of that and you didn't panic sell and you didn't take any unnecessary risk. You're going to be sitting pretty. Simplifying your investment strategy is the best thing that you can do. There's nothing wrong with buying ETFs and index funds. You want to have, or if you want to do, stocks, okay, cool. I have individual accounts. I have individual companies, but my individual companies are high quality companies, like an Amazon, like a Nvidia, like a Microsoft. I have a REIT. Oh, it's a real estate REIT. So I want to have about 4 to 6 companies max. So I got about 2 left and then I'm done and I'm going straight into, continue going into my ETFs and my index funds. But right now, before I even look at buying more positions in other individual companies, I'm building up VOO because I understand that that tracks 500 companies. So if I have Amazon go down and it tanks, well, guess what? I got 409 other companies that I can rely on. So instead of taking a total loss, I'm taking some of the loss. So now is really the time for you to stay consistent and be disciplined, especially the way the economy is going right now. You don't have to be perfect. You really don't. You just got to be consistent. You have to be consistent in anything you do in life for you to be good at it, right? So you got to be consistent in anything you do to be good at it. Like I told you earlier, I didn't have the best habits in my 20s, and that's why, I'm not at 100K right now. But with that being said, I can't dwell on that. I got to own that and just improve and learn from it, be a better person from it. And honestly, if you heard me throughout this podcast, it's not when until I turned 25, which is almost 4 years ago, is when I got very serious about my finances. So, whether that's paying off, my credit cards, whether that's paying off my wedding, things like that, my high interest debt, paying those things off has definitely helped me today. And again, it's been a 4-year process, and it's going to continue being a process, and I'm okay with that. It's just taking advantage of when the time comes, man. And when that time comes, just keep it simple, stick to your plan, keep it simple. But I understand now that the only person who's going to set me up for the long term, though, is going to be myself. Government's not here to save you. You're probably not going to get thousands of dollars when you have a family member pass, things like that. So the only person who can set you up for success is yourself. So you have to really look yourself in the mirror and identify exactly what you want and identify your goals. And you have to essentially go out and do it. No one's going to do it for you. Now, with that being said, if you are interested to see, how does compounding look? There are calculators all over the internet. I have 2 favorite calculators I like to use. I like to use the NerdWallet calculator, and I like to use Dave Ramsey's calculator. It kind of gives you a clear, of course, it's all hypothetical, right? But it kind of gives you a clear idea on how much you'll need to invest monthly. So when I usually do crunching my numbers to see, where I'm going to be and what I have to put in to get to my goal, I crunch it between 7 and 10%, since on average the S&P will give you on average a 10% return. 7% being very, very conservative, it's being very, very friendly to my numbers. And since COVID, if you look at the S&P, it's been well over 10%. But we'll just have to continue to see. Use those calculators, crunch the numbers, see what you would have to put in. And mind you, let's just say if it's $500 a month. But if you put $100 in a check and your employer matches that $100, that's $200 a check. So that's $400 right there. So you just got to find $100. You got to find how to get to that other $100 and stay consistent with it. And then when you go to check your accounts, you will start seeing it build and build and build over time. It's just right now, before you hit that 100K, it's going to be a lot slower than normal because, again, 100K is the hardest number to hit because you're really putting in more of your money right now until compounding interest takes over. And then next thing you know, a couple years go by and you are making half of what you go to work and what you do. So, you're making money in your sleep essentially. So that's why it's important to stay consistent. And that's why it's important to hold long term and not get distracted by what's going on. You need to stay locked in. You need to stay focused. Set it to automatic if you got to. If you set it to automatic transfers, it does it for you. And you don't have to even worry about it. But you have to find a way to get invested into the market and have your money grow, especially the way the economy is going right now. All right. So when I was looking, I was trying to find like the average age it takes to get to that 100K mark. And it didn't really give me like a specific age to where it got to that mark. But one thing I did find is that most of the time it ranges from late 30s to mid 40s, which sounds like I'm old, and I get when people say that, but how many people 40 and above still going out and enjoying their life? I mean, this man LeBron's 41 and still dropping 30-point games in the NBA. So if you take care of yourself, you eat right, you take care of your mental health, you find a happy space in life, age is just a number. Age is just how you feel. And now imagine this, imagine this. One, imagine having a money machine making you money while you're sleeping and not working. And imagine that you have six figures in your portfolio at that age. It's going to be okay. Like, you are going to be fine. You're going to still have energy in your 30s and 40s. Hell, you're going to have energy in your 50s, right? So stop using the whole old, or stop using the higher age as an excuse. It's an excuse for you to deflect from you putting into the market, which, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. That's okay. Like, I get it. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But just know that no one's coming to save you. And just know that you are going to have to be working well past your retirement age if you don't set yourself up now for it. So it really comes down to, like I said, how much you can save and what your discipline's going to be. Don't pull out your retirement account because the market is down. That doesn't make any sense. You're going in for retirement, right? So it doesn't even make sense that, oh, the market's down, my 401k is down, I'm 35 years old, I still got 20 plus years to retirement. Let me just pull out all the hard work I put in. Why? Why? Stick to your plan. Just let it build. Let it build over time. If you look at the S&P 500, you're going to see down, you're going to see up and down, up and down. Just expand it. Expand it the last 10 years. And what do you see? Just focus on one line, and the line is going to go up. It always goes up. You have to realize the stock market is somewhat rigged. You have powerful people. You have a lot of rich people. I mean, think about it. They invest into it just like we do. They don't want it to crash. They don't want it to lose all their money. I mean, look at these massive hedge funds. Look at these politicians. Look at these people in power. Look at these massive companies. The CEOs got egos too. They want to be the best CEO they can be. They want to have the richest company, right? So like it, and then on top of that, the US prints money, then puts it into the market. So yeah, we're going to have crashes, we're going to have dips, but the US is the biggest economy. If the US crashes, the whole world has a problem. Now I know we're talking about the dollar, this, that, and the third. I hear that, like, what happened with the dollar. Only thing you can do is set yourself up for success, and by doing that, is putting money into the market. So don't pull out. Let compounding interest do its thing, and then you'll thank yourself when it's time. So you need to understand, again, it will crash, but every time it crashes, the S&P hits all-time highs every single time. There's beauty in the beast. And the beauty is it has 100% bounce back rate. So, you have to understand, like I said, what's going on now in the Middle East is just like a blur of what you're going to be able to take out come retirement, especially if you're around my age. So, this just makes you richer over time as the market drops. You'll be able to buy more shares at the discounted price, and then you'll be able to hold long term. And then overall, over the next 10 years or so, you really see your investments take off. All right, so why is 100K such an important number in finance? Well, let's think about it. If you have 100K invested and you have a 8% annual return that year, that's a free $8,000. Just chilling. You didn't do anything, and you got 8K, got an extra 8K. You didn't have to do anything. That's the beauty of the 100K. They always say the first 100K, again, is the hardest because you haven't had enough time for it to compound. But once you start seeing the compounding interest take over, man, it's going to skyrocket. I'm not there yet, but I know based on what I've seen, based on what I heard, based on my research, based on everyone I watch, based on people I've talked to, you need to get to 100K. Like I said, on average, it takes about 7 to 8 years to get to that 100K. Even if it takes you 10 years, so what? Like, it doesn't, like, it's your time, it's your money, it's your investing, right? So even if it takes you 10 years, all right, that's fine. At least you got there, right? So, and at an 8% return to get to your next 100K, it cuts in half. It takes 5 years on average because now you're having compounding interest work. Ain't that crazy? It took you 7 to 10 years to get to the 100K. And then if you have an 8% return, which is, again, that's a very, very low return rate. I mean, that's 2% under the S&P on average. But I like to, have lower numbers and then kind of crunch it from there. 8% return rate from 100K to 200K will take you about 5 years. Check this out. From 200K to 300K, it'll take you about 4 years. And from 300K to 400K, it will take you about 3 years. And again, this is only at an 8% return rate. This is the power of compounding interest. This is why you need to hold long term and let it do its thing. It's a very underrated superpower and will make you a lot of money. You just have to be disciplined enough not to touch it. All right, so all in all, with all that being said, again, the power 100K, it's a very powerful number. They say it's like the 25% mark to a million because of the way compounding interest is. So, you just got to find a way to get there, stay consistent over time. It's as simple as that. So you have to understand though, something's better than nothing, right? So let's just say, you hit 100K, but you don't really hit your goal of $1 million down the road. Let's say you retire with, 500K. Something is better than nothing. And I'll tell you now, if you think that you're going to retire with 100K and be okay, you're not. 100K is not enough for you to retire and live off of. It's just not. Even with Social Security, even if we have Social Security by the time we get old enough, 100K is definitely not enough to live off during retirement. I mean, on average, 100K, like, you're not going to go far with that. So that you have to find ways to grow your money. And you have to understand too, by the time we're older, things are just going to be more expensive. So your 100K now will definitely not have the same buying power by the time we get to retirement. So you got to find a way to beat inflation. You got to find a way to invest. You got to find a way to grow your money. Because if you want to live comfortably when you're older and not have to work and spend that time with your family that you owe to them, then yeah, you need to really buckle down and get started. It's never too late, and something's better than nothing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for the support. It's been a very wonderful journey. I can't believe I got to episode 24, and I hope to continue bringing good content for you guys to share. Thank you.